Can you give us an update on Matthew Stafford's condition?
Yeah, I had a little hip contusion. We'll be smart with him, but it should be good to go. He is a stud, and obviously we saw him gut through that yesterday, but definitely took a good shot there. But we feel like he should be good to go.
Did he have any kind of MRIs or X-rays? What kinds of evaluation did he undergo?
Yeah, he got it checked out. Everything kind of checked out. I mean, he took a good shot to his hip and good deep bruise and some swelling and things like that kind of really happened immediately. But he was able to push through, and I think it was good to be able to kind of get him treated and try to minimize that right afterwards. But he's nice and sore today, but feel like he'll continue to make progress throughout the week.
Will he be limited at all or not practice on any of the days this week?
I don't think so, but we'll see. I'll let you know on Wednesday.
And then you had said last week that Cooper would start practicing this week. That's still going to happen?
Yes, he and O'Shawn Mathis will both will start their clocks.
How concerned are you, if at all, about Matthew? Kind of played through that. You guys won the game, but this being kind of an ongoing type of situation.
I think he'd be better equipped to answer that. He's such a tough competitor, Gary. Obviously you want him to be healthy, but something about him always plays with a pretty good edge when he's got something to work through too. So I thought that was pretty vintage him, like I mentioned after the game, but you don't minimize what a tough competitor he is and what he was pushing through, but he sure looked pretty damn good, even with that hip deal, the way that he played throughout the course of that game and even after he took that shot. But it was a gutsy performance. And I think once you get about 4 weeks into the season, a lot of these guys that are playing every single snap, like he's one of them, you never quite feel perfect. And they kind of learn how to be able to play through it. And it is certainly something that you don't take for granted. But I've seen him operate at a pretty high level when he's, got something that he's working through.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Jordan?
Hey, Sean, I'd be curious to hear you psychoanalyze that a little bit.
I think you probably would be better equipped to do that than me, Jordan.
Wanted to obviously with Puka coming in and having such a significant role for you guys. I wanted to see if you could get into a little bit more detail, obviously that game planning, about what it's like to plan for the potential of him and Cooper on the field together, obviously knowing that Cooper plays also a unique and differing role than what Puka's been doing for you.
Yeah, I think the first part of that, Jordan, is let's see how Cooper does when he comes back. And then what does it look like to be able to, piece together a game plan relative to him and Puka and the rest of our receivers? What are the different personnel groupings that we want to activate? I haven't even had a chance to get, on Philly yet. So there's an element of that, but those are positive things. Anytime that you're able to add a player like him into the mix, we're going to be better in figuring out how to be able to utilize both of them. Those are champagne problems, I guess, if you would say. So that's something that, we've kind of thought about, but I think it's situationally specific and something that, we'll definitely start working towards after I jump off this call with you guys.
I guess if you're able, how is what Puka is from the coaching sort of vernacular, how is what Puka is doing in the run and the pass uniquely situated to also include someone of Kupp's ability and his skill set at the same time?
Yeah, I think what I would say, Jordan, is what we've always had when we've been at our best from that receiver position are players that can do multiple things. And, that's run after the catch, that's aggressive hands through contact, that's digging out force and competing in the run game, all of which Cooper has done for us, all of which Robert Woods has done for us when he's been at a really high level. And so, I think it's easy to say, okay, this guy's a Z, this guy's an X, this guy's an F, but there's nuanced things. There's certain skill sets that each guy possesses, some which are similar and some which can be reflected in some different ways. But I think you'll see that come to life, and we've got to figure that out ourselves too. But, we have a much bigger body of work with Cooper, and I think all he's done as his career has progressed is continue to add to the repertoire of things that he can present. I think one of the big things when you look at 21, if you said what was the biggest difference in his production, obviously he and Matthew were outstanding, but he got a bunch of different targets everywhere. It wasn't exclusive to the short and intermediate. And so, those are things that we're learning. And as these guys evolve, then we want to make sure that, we're doing a good job of giving them opportunities to express the work that they've put in and also, their skill sets and how it can best suit our offense. So, but what you're seeing is two guys that can do a lot of different things with the ball and without the ball. And both stay grounded through the catch. Both are very good after the catch. Both are tough in contested situations. I think the simplest evaluation that I got of, what are you looking for in receivers? Guys that can get open and catch the ball. And I think both those guys can do that.
Thanks. And then last for me, you're expecting to have Stafford in practice in the game and all of that, but have you guys had any discussions about the potential of bringing in a third quarterback just in case?
Yeah, we have more to minimize the workload throughout the week of practice as a possibility. That was something that Les and I discussed, but it really didn't. There's some other things that we've kind of talked about, but that is something that's been brought up as far as having a third guy in the building, whether that be practice squad or even an active member. But those will be things that we'll kind of work through. And there's a couple other things that are maybe a little bit, I don't want to say higher on the priority, but that were a little bit more pressing matters for us with our conversations earlier today before I met with the team and stuff.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Adam,
you're muted, my man.
I don't want to pull Gary. Okay. So I just wanted to go back with you to kind of start towards the start of the off season. You're starting to realize the hard decisions you're going to have to make with veterans on the defensive side of the ball. What were those early conversations like with Les and with Raheem about, what the defense is going to look like coming into this year and how you're going to build that side of the ball?
Well, I think it was having a vision, having an understanding of what are the parameters and the discipline approach that we had to take based on where we were at and some previous things that, eventually you have to be able to address. And so there's no other way to deal with things other than clear, open, and honest and direct. And so there were certain situations, and not exclusive to the defense, but there was a handful of guys that were affected on the defensive side just based on the nuances of their contracts and kind of being able to say, all right, well, what does that look like for this year and then for years to come? But it was a team approach. It just so happened that a lot of guys that have been significant contributors and big time players for us were on the defensive side of the ball. But I think there was, that was the deal, some of which was by necessity, not because it was necessarily what we felt like was best. And then you say, okay, based on this, how do we move forward via the draft? What are some, potential free agents or guys that you can re-sign that are your own? What does it look like to get a couple guys back healthy from injury? And, I think if you guys know Raheem, he's always up for a challenge. He's got a zest for coaching and pouring into guys. And I think that's been consistent with the whole defensive staff. And then I really like the guys and the temperament and the personality of the dynamics of this group defensively, whether that be the guys up front, guys on the edges, the guys on the inside linebacker position or on the back end. And I think it's been a really cool collaboration of coaches and players and then continuing to learn on the fly. And then some great leadership illustrated by guys like Aaron, Ernest Jones, and Jordan Fuller.
A couple of the guys have referred to themselves as the no-name defense, just based off of what the preseason conceptions were about the unit from outside the facility. You mentioned the edge that Stafford plays with. Have you seen a certain edge in how the defense has played these first 4 weeks, kind of putting that to bed?
Absolutely, Adam. I think there's an edge. I think there's a toughness. There's a physicality. I think we're continuing to learn how to be able to play 11 as one. I think there's been a lot of really good examples of some really high level stuff going on in these first 4 weeks. And then there's still a lot of room for growth. But these guys, they just come to work. They're so consistent. They're steady. They love football. They love competing. They love the challenges that every single week presents relative to the offenses that they're going against. And I love the way these coaches have poured into them and continue to help them develop. And it's a really cool collaboration and connection. And they're sure as hell a fun group to work with. I love those guys.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Stu. Hey, Sean, what'd you take away from Kevin Dotson's first start for you guys? Obviously, he's had starting experience, but it was his debut for
I thought he did a really good job. I thought he played with physicality. Thought he got good removal. There was a couple things. I thought he did a really nice job in protection and just straining to finish. There was a couple times where, like anything, there's some snaps that you can learn from, but he had a steady demeanor. I thought he did a great job, especially, when we were operating on our silent cadence in the gun. I was really pleased with him. I like his edge. I like his experience. You could feel there was a calm, but there's a toughness to his game that I think is really, good for our offense. And I was really pleased with him.
And then just to quickly check on Alaric Jackson, what is his status looking like as of right now?
Anytime we're dealing with those hamstrings or those soft tissues, we'll take it a day at a time. He did a good job with the workout before the game. There was still possible optimism that he could go yesterday, but we erred on the side of caution. And so want to see him continue to take steps. I know he's going to approach the week with the intention to try to go after it and give him every opportunity to be out there with his teammates, but we'll take it a day at a time with him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan.
Hey, Sean, any other injuries coming out of yesterday?
Yeah, a couple of, you get your standard stuff. Joe Noteboom temporarily left. He kind of just strained his groin a little bit. We'll see where he's at when we come back Wednesday. Kyron and Matthew both kind of had like hip contusions, but they both finished the game. Higgs got his thumb banged up a little bit, Tyler Higbee. And then everybody else, your typical bumps and bruises, but those are the guys of note, if you will.
Ronnie Rivers seemed to give you some nice pop as the second back in the run game. What sort of evolution have you seen from him this year?
He did a really good job. I was pleased with Ronnie, and he got a couple runs called back that were really productive, but he's steady, man. He's got great vision. He's got great patience. I thought both Kyron and Ronnie did a really nice job as a whole, whether that was in the run game or in the pass game. I've just seen a guy that very similar to a lot of the guys we've talked about. He's just gotten better because he's put a consistent work ethic in every single day, and he loves football. He comes into the building with the same demeanor and disposition and just has a great way about himself every single day. I think that consistency just compounds in positive ways, and that's what he's done. I think he's done a really nice job, on the punt team as a wing for us, and whether that be in protection or transition into coverage. And he's a valuable player. And I think, you'll continue to see him get, a healthy dose and a healthy workload because he's earned it. And I think those guys are really good complements to one another.
He obviously played for Jeff Tedford at Fresno. Ron was with Jeff forever at Cal. Is there sort of a nice carryover, a common language with those two, given that background?
You know what? They probably do have that good language. Those running backs are a nice, tight-knit group. I feel like sometimes I got to poke my head in there to just be involved in the conversation. Ron's got a great thing going with the dynamics of that room, but you have to ask Coach Gould about that. I'm not sure about the Jeff Tedford connections there.
Thanks.
Sarah.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, Sarah.
Puka was telling us after the game that whenever it is that Cooper comes back, run blocking will get a little bit easier for him. What is it about the way Cooper plays and the attention that defenses are giving him that will make that the case?
I don't know. Why did he say that?
I asked him what he was excited about for having Cooper back, and that's what he said. He said run blocking will get easier.
I wonder if that means because Cooper will do some of the things that we're asking from him, or because he thinks that Cooper's presence is going to dictate a shell all the time. You have to get him to ask that. You got to get him to answer that part of it for you.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Gary, wrap up with you.
Sean, just kind of going back to what you were saying about conversations with less about more pressing issues. Does kicker fall into that realm? And if so, or if not, how's that kind of operation going, with the two younger guys?
No, that wasn't part of the dialogue, Gary. I was pleased with Brett. Obviously, there were some situations that, those were some big opportunities and some misses. I think you also have to be cognizant and considerate of a lot of the attempts that he's had these aren't short field goals. These are long in the, in between, these are 40 plus or, some 50 plus yarders. And there's a lot of layers that go into it. I think he'll be the first to tell you, he could have struck a couple of those differently, but there's a snap, there's a hold, there's a protection. And so think everybody wants to always put it on the kicker, and it's not exclusive to that, but Brett's produced at a high level. I think we put him in some tough situations. He does give us a range that we don't take for granted, Gary. And so I think he'll improve. I do like the fact that was reflected. And he's, we've seen that even in, the first and the fourth game in particular through the first month. But, all those things go into consideration. But I have confidence in Brett Maher. And that was not part of the discussions as it relates to, what I was, talking about with Les this morning.